Good morning, everyone. While we're getting settled, if you wouldn't mind double checking that your cell phone is at least silenced, if not turned off, that would be wonderful and we appreciate it. I'm Rabbi Jonathan Krause, and to my left is Cantor Jerry Robbins, and we are honored and delighted and also sad to welcome you to Bethel Temple Center. As many of you will know, an important place in the life of the Liberman family for many decades now. And so it's appropriate that we should gather here. I have remarked before that one of the first things Marty told me when I first met him, this is the end of my 31st year at the congregation, but he outranked me by a lot. Was that Rabbi Grolman, who as some of you may remember, who was our beloved Rabbi Emeritus, Marty was one of his first B'nai Mitzvah when he came. So that's how long the Liberman family has been intertwined with this community. And so it's pretty appropriate that we should be in this room, in this place, although I gather he was in the house on Lexington Street before he was here, and that's how long ago. Because before the building was built here at Concord Avenue, High and Bell were among the founders of our congregation, all the way back in the 1950s and before when the congregation was first being formed. So how important and appropriate that we come back to this place, which hopefully held so many moments of joy and sweetness, as well as on today, considerable sorrow. Our tradition teaches us that there's a bunch of different reasons we come together when we lose someone that we love. The first, of course, is so that we can honor Marty, the wonderful person that he was, and all the gifts he gave in the life that he lived, large and small. But of course, we also come together to honor the mourners, and in some sense, all of us are mourners, but I mean in this way, the people who loved him best and knew him the best. And so I have in mind his beloved wife of over 50 years, Sarah A. Liberman. I was told that I got to do the initials today. So Sarah A. Liberman, and it's a poignant day because some of you know this is their anniversary day. So this is a lot, but maybe there's no other place that to be on such a day than with people who loved Marty. And so maybe it's a good thing in that sense if we have to be here. Also, Marty's son Cliff and Cliff's son Sarah M. Liberman, and their children Natanya and Nathan, Marty's daughter Karen and Karen's husband Matthew, and their son, Marty's grandson Jared. And we want to, of course, call to our hearts and our minds Marty's two sisters, his sister Joanne, who's with us today, and also his sister Patty. Of course, as I've mentioned, many of us are mourners as well, certainly in the emotional sense. And so we come together hoping to find a measure of comfort in being with other people who understand how blessed we were to have this terrific man in our lives, and therefore share some of the sense of sorrow and loss. Even after 90 years, the heart tends to be greedy, right? We want more when we love somebody. And so people who understand what a gift Marty was and therefore have some sense along with us for how great is our loss. In this smart and creative and funny and kind and energetic and passionate and adventurous and generous and charming and fun-loving and devoted and I am told occasionally mischievous man. Right? You laugh because you know, and so there's comfort in realizing that people around you also get it, right? They understand a little bit of why we're here. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of comfort on this sad day. There's another reason, of course, Jewish tradition tells us to come together at such a moment, which is that there's a possibility we can glean at least a measure of wisdom when we sort of at the margins of life, right? When life begins, when a new baby is born, when life ends, these tend to be times in our lives where we have a moment of stepping back, and seeing life in broad prospect, right? Sort of considering the meaning of a life in whole from beginning to end. And in that moment, there is at least an invitation to understand what is truly important, what ends up mattering, and what turns out, even though it often occupies so much of our thought and our energy, not to be so very important. And maybe, therefore, a chance to reorient ourselves, to recenter ourselves, and make our lives about the things that are truly important and consequential. And this is a good way to measure. What do we end up valuing at the end of a lifetime? What ends up really mattering, and what doesn't end up actually being so important in the end? And maybe we can therefore make our lives more about the stuff that really does matter when viewed in the prospect of a whole lifetime. We've had beautiful and powerful and profound tools for doing that for centuries, for literally thousands of years. Probably most prominent among them, at least in terms of the ancient tradition, the words of the Psalms. And the Psalms turn us to that bigger perspective, right? Stepping back and seeing things in that context. And so we're going to invite Cantor Robbins to chant words from the Psalms as a way to begin.
Adonai, Madon, Vatedaehu, Ben Enosh, Vatechashvehu. Adam lahevel dama, Yamav kitzel hover, Baboker yatzis vechalaf, La'erev yimalel v'yavish. Asher ve'nosh adataka, v'tomer shuvu v'nei Adam. Luchachnu yaskiru zot, yavinu le'acharitam, ki lo b'moto yikach hakol, lo yered acharav kevodo. Shemartam urei yashar, ki acharit le'ishalom. Pod Adonai nefesh avadav, velo yashemu kol hachosim bo. Kol hachosim bo.
Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and we go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, "Return, O mortal creatures." Would that we were wise, that we understood where we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark therefore the wholehearted, and behold the upright. They shall have peace. Adonai, you redeem the souls of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate. We hear then the familiar words of the 23rd Psalm, first chanted for us in Hebrew by the Chazan. And then, if you'd like, I'll invite you in the small booklet that you received as you came in to join me in English if you'd like to say it with me.
ינחני במעגלי צדק, ינחני במעגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בקץ המוות לא אירא, כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפניי, שולחן נגד צורריי. תשענת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. אדוני רואי לא אחסר, אדוני רואי לא אחסר.
Join me if you'd like. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Chaim Nachman Bialik was probably, if not the greatest, certainly among the greatest of the pre-state poets of the modern state of Israel. And I thought of this poem of his mostly because it talks about music at the end, and the music that is left unsung or unplayed in a life that was filled with beautiful music and joyous and meaningful music. Bialik wrote, Acharei moti siftu kachali, haya ish, ur'u einenu od. Kodam zmano met ha'ish hazeh, v'shirat chayav be'emtza nifsaka. V'tsar, od mizmor echad hayalo, v'hinei avad hamizmor la'ad. After my death, mourn me thus. There was a man, and see, he is no more. Before his time, his life was ended, and the song of his life was broken. Oh, he had one more melody, and now that melody is lost forever. Lost forever. We speak about memory as an enormous gift and also an enormous burden. I know this from personal experience. My mom, unfortunately, towards the end of her life after my dad had passed, suffered from dementia. And eventually she got to a place where she couldn't remember my dad anymore. And in one sense, there was comfort in that, right? She no longer had the pain of missing him because she didn't remember. But on the other hand, I think had she ever been given a choice, which unfortunately she was not, she would have chosen the pain of remembering and missing. How precious is it and how powerful that we carry people with us even after they are no longer physically present to us, and they remain interwoven in our lives and our laughter and our music and our love and also in our sorrow. And that's sort of the message of this particular meditation. It says our angels spend much of their time sleeping. In their dreams, they tear down the new houses by the sea and build old ones in their place. No matter how long they may sleep, 100, 200 years, 10 centuries is not too much. The first to wake up takes the torch that has been handed down, adds a drop of oil to the lamp, blesses the eternal light, and then recalls the name of every other angel. And one by one, as they are remembered, they wake up. For them, as for us, there is nothing more beautiful than memory. Nothing more beautiful. We are going to have the privilege of hearing from some folks who are going to share some of their memories with us. On the one hand, we know that there absolutely is no way that there are enough words in the English language to capture all the sweetness and warmth and laughter and music and joy and generosity and kindness of Marty's life. We could speak for days and days and days, and we still wouldn't be done with all the moments, large and small, that he created over 90 years. But hopefully we will, through these words spoken with love and sorrow, touch just a little bit of what made him such a blessing to all of us. We're going to hear first from his wife, Sarah A. Liberman.
I met Marty in October 1974 at a music party called Sam's Jam that was held twice a month at a home in Somerville, Massachusetts. I was playing the washboard and Marty was playing his clarinet. I was out of college for a year or two, and Marty was out of his first marriage for a year or two. We dated for 9 months, lived together in our home in Lexington for another 9 months, and we married on June 6th, 1976. Today is our 49th wedding anniversary. Marty owned and operated Hilco Electric Supply Company until 1997. He sold his business to Standard Electric Supply Company, and he worked there until he turned 90 years old in 2024. Marty enjoyed working as an application engineer, and he enjoyed interacting with customers and coworkers. Over 50 years, we had so many wonderful times together. Skiing, ice skating, parties, and hockey games on the pond. Boating trips where we trailed our 20-foot cruiser to another body of water and spent days cruising and sleeping in the small V-berth of the boat. Jazz parties at our home where Marty played clarinet with many other musicians and the music went on until the wee hours of the night. I could talk about our amazing experiences for hours. One story that exemplifies Marty's personality took place when Marty was in his early 70s, and he was playing hockey in a local league. A woman who was playing on the opposite team wore a hockey shirt with the name Ehrenstein on it. Always friendly and outgoing, Marty skated over to her and said, "I went to overnight camp with a guy named Bobby Ehrenstein. Do you know him?" And the woman replied, "Yes, Bobby Ehrenstein is my grandfather." With Marty, I experienced unconditional love for the very first time in my life. He is responsible for my happiness today. We were incredibly close, and we enjoyed spending our time together. It was my privilege to take care of him when he was declining from Parkinson's disease. Marty, my beautiful pussycat, I love you, Marty. I will always love you. And I know that no one ever has or ever will love me as much as you love me. Marty, I miss you so much. Thank you.
We're going to hear next from Marty's son, Cliff.
It's a privilege and an honor to speak about my father, who I love so much. Wonderful words, Sarah. Way too much to encapsulate all the memories that we had with my dad. But I'm going to try to give you a few memories and stories. I first want to say, Natanya, Zadie was so proud of you, so proud. And I know that he was smiling when you went up on that podium to get your law degree. Nathan, Zadie, also so proud of you and the person that you have become and are becoming, and the many conversations he enjoyed having with you, be it religion or politics. Jared, I know that Zadie loved playing music with you, the trumpet, and the many music gatherings we had and on Karen's house. Okay. As will be, I'm sure, echoed by many, my father gave us the opportunity to do so many things: skiing, tennis, hockey, boating. As a matter of fact, although my father was always doing motorboating, cruising, I became a sailor, and he introduced me to community boating on the Charles River, and that's where I learned to sail. Going to gravitate to square dancing for a moment. So when I got out of college, I was not really dating anybody. I kind of introverted through my school years. My dad actually said to me, "Why don't you try square dancing? I heard it's a good way to meet somebody." Well, it turns out that at the Bowman's public school where I attended elementary school, they had a singles club called Single Squares. A lot of older folks. And, oh, I'm sorry, too much, sorry.
You don't need to be quite so close.
Okay, sorry, everybody. So that was an older club, and then somebody said to me as I was learning to square dance, "Why don't you go down to Tech Squares at MIT? There's a real young swing club there." And that's where I met my wife, Sarah. One from my dad suggesting that. Who knows if that would have happened. So a couple things here. So my dad, everybody knows, at any given time, always looks 20 years younger than he was. And I actually played hockey with him in a league called the Hockey Academy, and we ended up on the same team somehow. And we're riding over there, and he actually said to me, Cliff, your issue is you talk too much. I'm not your father, I'm not your brother, I'm not your cousin. So that season, they did not even know we were related the entire season on that team. That's how, and I always thought my dad kind of was a joking thing, but he really did want people not to know. He didn't think they played in the same way as Sarah said. So, my father, another funny memory to share with you. So I grew up in the house in Lexington, as Karen did, during the jazz parties, and I was young at the time, and I tried to go to sleep in my room. Not easy to do with the band playing. And, I guess I inadvertently locked the door. So all of a sudden, my dad, of course, loves me and cares about me, right? He's trying to get my attention. Cliff, Cliff, Cliff. And they decide, well, we're going to break the door down. Imagine my startling when he did that and he came in there. So one other quick memory to share about my father and the music and the Dixieland jazz that I grew up with, that I would not have had the exposure and been able to love so much if it wasn't for the jazz parties. But up in Lake Sunapee, Steve Tyler, who was founder of Aerosmith, has a house on Lake Sunapee. You pass it every time you come in and out of the harbor. It's a big gambrel. Well, somehow my father met Victor Tylerico, who was Steve Tyler's father, playing in one of the restaurants or whatever. They met each other and they played together a number of times. Just as Sarah said, my father's outgoing. You never know who he was going to meet, who he was going to reach out to. So anyway, I don't want to take too much time. Those are a few memories. Dad, I love you very, very much. I know you're in a better place. You'll forever be with me. All the things you taught us, all the memories. I love you, Dad.
We're going to hear next from Cliff's wife, Sarah M. Liberman.
Just very briefly to follow up on Cliff's comment. So when I met Marty, Marty says to me, Marty Liberman, I only want to live to be 70. And I said to Cliff, gee, your father's a little dark, isn't he? Like 7? Anyway, but Marty, you've outlawed yourself, you lived to 90. And I always joke with people, the only thing I had in common with Marty was raw fish and raw meat. So, but we had many things in common. I loved him very much. And I wanted to share with you, so the most holy thing I consider my life is reading Torah. And here's my yard, I have my yard with all kinds of things on it from living and passed on people. And so when I go up to read the Torah, I go up with everybody in my heart because that's the way I am. And today I was gifted Marty's watch that he was wearing when he passed. So Marty, it is my honor to add this to my yard, and every time, and you're always in my heart, especially when I read Torah. And thank you for letting me honor your memory in this way. I love you very much, and thank you for giving me Cliff.
We're going to hear next from Marty's granddaughter, Natanya.
So I think the best way to honor my grandfather's memory today would be with a story that really showed who he was as a person. So he has a boat in Sunapee, and my parents also have a sailboat. And one weekend, my friends came down, and we were initially on my father's boat, but we met my grandfather in the middle of the lake, and we did like a hop over, a switch. Kind of crazy. But anyway, me and my friends left without our shoes. So the shoes, if you follow, were on my father's boat, but we left them there, and we're now on my grandfather, Zadie, Marty's boat. So we get back to Sunapee Harbor, because Sunapee Harbor is in a different place than where the other boat is. And Sunapee Harbor is a bustling place, lots of people, lots of things happening. We realized we didn't have our shoes on. Me and my friends, no shoes. And you know, you're in a bus, you're in a public place, nobody's walking around barefoot. So Zadie, what does he do? He takes off his shoes and he says, "Who needs shoes, guys?" And he proceeds to walk down in front of all his friends, the whole Sunapee Harbor, barefoot, and even gets in his car and drives us home, or drives us to his cottage barefoot. And the reason I like that story is because that's who he was. Zadie was someone who stepped into other people's shoes, or in our case, lack of shoes. he really, he used humor as a way to bring people closer to him, to make them comfortable around him. The most important thing to him was people feeling happy and peace, and that's what he would always tell me. Whenever there was any kind of disagreement in our family, he'd always say, "Natanya, how important is it?" As in, like, you know, what is best is when people are peaceful and people are happy, and he always said, now that doesn't mean that he didn't understand conflict. In fact, the way he handled conflict is very wise. He always, encouraged people to talk to third parties, and the reason I bring that out is because that shows somebody who really cares about people, right? He really cared about people being happy with their choices and with those around them, and he was a man that made everyone comfortable as best as he could when they were in his presence. Zadie, I love you. I'm going to miss you so much. I miss you now. You're always with me. He drove me. Thank you for driving me to school every week, for the dinners, for the conversation. Oh yeah, and another thing about him, we had different lifestyles. My grandfather was not Orthodox. He was not particularly a fan of the Orthodox lifestyle, which I have taken upon myself. However, that never stopped our relationship. We were just as close. We engaged in passionate discussion. He always respected me as I do him. And our love never wavered because of any philosophical difference we may have had. And I thank you, Zadie, for that. And you're always in my heart, and I miss you so much. Thank you.
I also want to say Mazel Tov, counselor. We're going to hear next from Marty's daughter, Karen.
Hello. Thanks everybody for all such wonderful words, and Sarah, and for giving us this opportunity today to talk. Thank you everyone. The stories and lessons from my dad are pretty much endless, as everybody's been saying today. He leaves behind such a wealth of knowledge and amazing memories that I carry forward and will never stop reflecting on. My dad always called me by the nickname he gave me, which was Babes. These last couple of weeks, up until the day he passed, as soon as I saw him, I would say, "I love you, Dad." And he would say, "I love you, Babes." It was so nice to know that he knew I was there and that I knew he was there. My dad provided life learnings on so many things. No surprise to any that knew him well that one could sum it up to say he was the iconic example of what it means to work hard and play hard. Something he taught me and how I now see every day. My dad worked harder than anyone I have ever known. He absolutely loved helping his customers, and I realized that my brother and I have the same passion and have the same fun helping people solve problems. In talking about his work, he was so creative. All the small things, like how organized he was at handling thousands of items for the business. Yes, I used to work there in the summer sometimes. I'll never forget how he was back in business instantly after the devastating fire at Hilco. I faced a similar situation years later, and the lessons he taught me to move forward quickly and decisively are what I leaned on when we had a fire where I was working. His ingenuity and creativity reached far beyond business into our everyday family life. As an example, he designed so many custom solutions in places like the boat, so absolutely everything had a proper place. I used to think, wow, that is just so much work. But he taught us that when you really have a passion for something, it is not work, it is actually joy. Many of you know that we all spend a lot of time skating on the pond. To make smoother ice, he would take a blowtorch first to make a hole and designed a special pumping system to flood the ice with a fresh surface. I was amazed by this invention. Talking a bit more about sports, fitness was important, but it had to be fun. Almost every time we talked, he would ask if I was getting enough exercise. When we were very young, we played tennis at courts by Grandma Belle's house right here in Belmont, just very short distance. And we were told to hit the ball anywhere, so we would have fun, and he could get more exercise chasing the ball. And of course, the hockey. As you've heard from my family today, he insisted that we promise to never tell his hockey team how old he was, so they would not be too easy on him during the games. As a family, we played hockey together on the pond. He and my brother Cliff were much better hockey players, but I could skate faster than any of them, which often helped me win the games. I loved going to Bruins games with my dad. He would always save the best games for our family, and he taught us how to appreciate the art and complexity of the game. Next, there is the skiing on snow and water. On snow, we were always freezing, since hand warmers were not invented yet. But he forced us to take lessons, for which I am so grateful, because it remains one of my favorite things to do. And spending countless hours teaching us to water ski was quite lucky, since this is in fact the way I met my husband 37 years ago, Matt. So this brings us to boating and sleeping in nature. I think he was an early inventor of glamping. We tented, but we had it all. Tents with heat, porta potties, the boat, refrigerator, a stove at the campsite, and even a kitchen sink. Through all this adventure and experience, he taught us not to be afraid of almost anything. And when there is a problem, there is always a solution. Of course, I must mention the music too. This was great, but sometimes a little tough, as I remember that feeling of, oh no, Dad is going to ask this band at the restaurant if he can play with them. And I was always surprised at how often they said yes. Holidays these last many years with our entire family were always a time where live music was never missing. Maybe less known is how much he made our family a priority. After both my mom and dad had remarried, they lived about 1 mile away from each other. Divorce was very uncommon then, but somehow he intuitively knew how critical it was to be together every week, even if it was not easy to maintain such a schedule. With Dad and my stepmother Sarah, there was a plan of activities, and he carefully curated all the movies and photo albums of our family that he brought out often of the great memories. So back to the work hard, play hard life of my dad. An incredibly full life, and he would make the best he could out of each day. We gained lots of little loves from my dad, like maple candy, blintzes, how to keep a basement organized, music, and how to perfectly coil an anchor line on a boat deck. If, in your honor, Dad, this true love for life remains inside of all of us every day. Because of the incredible life you insisted on with us, and I absolutely love you, Dad. Thank you so much, and I will miss you very much.
I take nothing away from all the beautiful and heartfelt words that we have heard when I say the best eulogy for Marty may be the one we're about to hear, because we're going to hear some music, and I'll invite those folks to come forward. Marty had, as you guys know better than I did, a kind of a special light, a kind of a warmth and I don't know, luminosity, I guess is the word that comes to mind. I actually didn't know him super well, but I remember all of our encounters in the congregation. He stays in my mind and my heart because he made such an impression even in those relatively small and few encounters that we had often around the Jewish holidays. And always that smile and always that warmth and that light, which I think might continue to illuminate all of us in music and in love and in laughter and in joy in all the ways we've heard about. So his friends, Cheryl Arena and Craig Ball, joined by Mike Dubari, are going to share a gift of music with us, because what else would we do for Marty?
your coat and grab your hat. Leave your worries on the doorstep. Just direct your feet on the sunny side of the street. Don't you hear that pitter-pat and that happy tune in your step? Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade, but I'm not afraid. This rover crossed over. If I ever get a cent, I'd be rich as Rockefeller. Gold dust at my feet on the sunny side of the street. Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worries on the doorstep. Just direct your feet on the sunny side of the street. Don't you hear that pitter-pat and that happy tune in your step? Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with those blues on parade, but I'm not afraid. This rover crossed over. If I never get a cent, I'd be rich as Rockefeller, with gold dust at my feet on the sunny, on the sunny, on the sunny side of the street. I love you, Marty.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Beautiful. So we're going to take just a few moments together after the beautiful notes of music, after the words, to just be quiet together. Because maybe there are thoughts or feelings or memories that are beyond the capacity of any words or even any notes of music to completely capture. So let's give each other the gift of just a few moments of quiet to be with whatever thoughts and feelings we need to be with at this moment.
Shalom. ייגמר לעולם. החול והים, רשרוש של המים, ורק השמיים, תפילת האדם, החול והים, רשרוש של המים, ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
So I'll invite you to join me in this simple prayer, just with the refrain, we remember him. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter,
We remember him.
in the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring,
We remember him.
in the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn,
We remember him.
in the beginning of the year and when it ends,
We remember him.
when we feel weary and are in need of strength,
We remember him.
when we feel lost and sick at heart,
We remember him.
when we have joys we long to share.
We remember him.
So long as we live, he too shall live, for he's now part of us as we remember him. We're going to take a moment for the prayer El Malei Rachamim, one of the two sort of central Jewish prayers of mourning, which of course asks God to shelter and protect and care for and watch over somebody who at least physically we can no longer care for. However we think about what comes next, whether we understand it as a metaphor and just our longing for them to be sheltered and protected, or if we think there is another place in which God's wings shelter this person, still we express this longing. And I'll ask that if you're able, you stand with us.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Amtzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Konfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kizohar Harakia, Mazirim, Et Nishmat Mordechai ben Chaim Yitzchak Upluma, Shehalach Olamo, Al Harachamim, Harachamim, Yastirehu Beseter Kenafav, Leolamim, V'yitzrar, V'yitzrar HaChaim, Et Nishmato, Adonai, Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach, V'shalom, Al Mishkalo, V'nawar, Amen.
Compassionate God, Eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Martin R. Liberman, our beloved who has entered eternity. God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he now and always rest in peace, and let us say. Amen. I want to first thank all of you for being here. It is one of the most important gifts we can give, to keep somebody company, right? We can't take away the hurts. Nothing really can do that, but it softens it and makes it a little bit more bearable when we love people who love us, people who love Marty, take the time and care to stand with us and walk alongside us. So on behalf of Marty's family, I thank you for that gift. In my book, it's kind of a holy thing that we do for each other. In just a moment, as we conclude our service here, we're going to go to Sharon Memorial Park. And especially if you're heading down, I encourage you to go back to your car at the conclusion of the service. And we're going to meet up down there. We're not going to go in procession. You'll want the Dedham Street entrance, the main entrance to Sharon Memorial, where we will line up. So when you set your GPS, just look for the main entrance on Dedham Street, and we'll line up there at the cemetery after we've made our way down individually. For those of you not able to join us in making your way to the cemetery, just a reminder that you're invited to join in Shiva up at Cliff and Sarah M. Liberman's home, which is up in Melrose. I won't give you all the details in time. It's actually listed here in the service booklet, as well as the address. I'm going to encourage you to take that with you if you'd like to join them up there. And also, those of us who are going to the cemetery, I gather, are invited to Karen's house after we conclude at the cemetery. That information also in here. I want to note for those of you for whom this information might be important that Sarah A. Liberman will not be able to join in those Shiva services as she has to go out of town, but I'm gathering that much of the family will be there. So just wanted to alert you to that information here in the service folder. We're going to ask that the pallbearers make their way forward as the folks from Levine Chapel come forward to guide you. And I'm then going to ask that we allow the family to exit first, and then we'll go directly to our cars and make our way to Sharon Memorial Park in Canton and meet up there again, as I've mentioned.
Al yitain lamot raglecha, al yanum shomerecha, hinei lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomerecha, Adonai tzilcha, al yad yaminecha, yomam hashemesh lo yakeka, ve'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorcha mikora, yishmor et nafshecha, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzetecha uvoecha, מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם. אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי, מעם אדוני עושה שמיים וארץ. אל ייתן ממות רגליך, אל ינום שומרך, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל. אדוני